Hello, everyone. My name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today, I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about One Piece today with Dr. Philip Chase, Dr. Fantasy himself. And I'm so excited to be talking about One Piece. As you guys know, I've been just binging through the series. I started in January about, and now I'm past Fishman Island. So I've been really going through it, and I wanted to slow down a bit and talk about the series. And who better to have than Philip? So, welcome back to the channel. I'm happy to have you.
It's great to be here, Christian. I love One Piece, so it's going to be a fun conversation.
Oh yeah. So the first question I wanted to ask you and sort of talk about is what makes One Piece special to you, and why is it your happy place? Because I always hear you talk about how it's your happy place in your videos. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is my happy place. Not that tragic things don't happen in One Piece. I mean, it's a series that will definitely uh, evoke a lot of emotions in you, and that is one reason, of course, why we love it. It is a very emotional series. A lot of tears, both happy and sorrowful tears, happen when you're engaging with One Piece, and whether you're a manga reader or you're watching the anime or what have you, it's just a very emotional story that connects very deeply with, I think, a lot of its fans, so or all of its fans, really. But it's also, in addition to that, it's fun, it's goofy. It's amazing to me how Oda has created a story that can be simultaneously goofy and fun, but also really deep and tackle some important themes. I think this is a story for our times. It's a story for all times because of these themes that Oda is exploring. And he's a very, very gifted storyteller because he doesn't tell you what to think about all these themes. He explores different facets of them. So things like justice. He actually has various characters who represent different approaches to justice and never once says this is the right approach, that's the right approach. It leaves that up to the reader or the viewer. But there's also, obviously, there's fellowship and friendship and found family, and that's just, if you love those things, I mean, they're all over the place in One Piece. Following one's dreams, having one's will in the world, which is, such an important thing. Your legacy, the energy that you bring to existence. What effect are you going to have in the world with that? So that is a beautiful thing that One Piece tackles, something that I think anyone can relate to. And I mean, there's so much else. It's so multifaceted, so diverse. Another thing I love about the series is its diversity, which is a reflection of our world in some really wonderful ways. So I love that about One Piece. And yeah, I'm leading out a bunch of themes, but I mean, there's just oodles of great thematic stuff in there. So yeah, I think it's just a reflection of, a lot of people can easily relate to this series because we all have dreams. We all have the desire for friendship and relationships where we bring out the best in each other, and that's something you see reflected in the Straw Hats consistently. So yeah, yeah, I love it. How about you? What do you love about One Piece?
oh, I agree with all that you've said, but definitely the balance of the silliness and the seriousness. Because I love when Luffy goes to an island and he sees the problem that's going on, but it's like it hasn't registered with him yet, so he has to kind of spend time on the island. And it's always when he's viewing like another, like usually a inhabitant on the island. They go through a harrowing experience, and something ticks in his brain. He's like, I gotta go help them, and because he's always looking to help people, and I really love that theme in the story
Yeah,
because no matter who you are, Luffy always tries to find the best sides of you and
yeah, so
encourages you.
true.
So,
I talked a lot about compassion in my latest video, which is a little ahead of where you are now, but the Dressrosa saga. And it's a theme that runs throughout. I mean, it's a great observation on your part that Luffy and many other characters, again, it's an exploration of different facets of compassion. It's not just one monolithic way of looking at it, or some simplistic compassion equals good.
mhm.
It's a really surprisingly sophisticated, nuanced, and expansive exploration of compassion.
Yeah, and one thing that's really great about the series as well is sort of how deeply he goes into each of the themes, and he revisits themes as well. Because I just finished Fishman Island, which featured humans versus the fishmen, and sort of factions within each of those sides. And we already sort of had that already with Skypio, and I loved it there as well. Like I loved Skypio, and I love seeing that theme come back where we get both sides' perspectives, we get perspectives within the groups, and then you have sort of these third party observers who are sort of, they have a skin in the game, I guess, because especially with Fishman Island, there's this idea that the Noah's gonna slam into them, and everyone sort of is like, okay, let's band together and actually figure out how to not have this happen. And I really love the themes as well. And
Yeah,
that's
I mean that's a hard look at the effects of oppression and
mm-hmm,
the effects not only on the people who oppress, but on the people who are oppressed, both. And what does it do to you when you are an oppressor? And what are the long-term generational effects of oppression on people? How does oppression warp people on all sides? It's really quite a provocative and I think important exploration of that particular theme there. But you see such beautiful characters too in all of this. We love our characters in One Piece.
oh yeah,
Everybody has their favorites, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But characters we love to root for, some that we love to hate, and it's just it's somehow amazing to me that Oda is able to introduce a character and within a few pages have me not only know that character but love that character. It's quite astounding to me. And of course, there's the regulars, the Straw Hats. I mean, who doesn't love Luffy, right? And what he represents in the world, his vitality, his pursuit of dreams, his pursuit of freedom. Freedom's a huge theme in One Piece, in many respects, and the importance of freedom for the individual, but also on a society.
and I really loved speaking to the theme of freedom. I love the Sabayoti or Shabandi archipelago arc because it introduces the celestial dragons. And you see him come in, and this guy is like on all fours, crawling, and he's just riding on top, happy as can be. And that is like that image has just really stuck with me
Yeah,
because like I just immediately hated the celestial dragons after that,
yeah.
and then
Well, it's a
everything that
metaphor.
happens. Yeah.
It's a metaphor for the social hierarchy that is in the world we live in. You have some individuals at the top who enjoy a ridiculously and unnecessarily lavish lifestyle at the expense of millions of people. And it's, One Piece is very socially relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, I don't think you could argue that Oda is shy to tackle some of these really important social themes. And that's something I love it for because it's a safe space to analyze these themes in, too. A lot of times I think people get uncomfortable when you start talking about these things in the real world. But if we can see them portrayed in One Piece, maybe it makes it a little easier for us to wrestle with these things. But I think it's clear where he's going with the celestial dragons.
Mm-hmm. And another timely sort of theme that I really enjoyed was through the character of Nika Robin and sort of the destruction of knowledge, because her backstory
Mm.
is all with the poneglyphs and being able to read them because she's from the island of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I really was affected watching that series and watching as the Marines were coming in and about to bomb them. And you're kind of like, they'll be saved, somehow. And then it just keeps going and they're just wiped off the earth. And you see Nico Robin make a very lucky escape. And like, that was such like, I think that's my favorite character in the Straw Hats is Nico Robin because of that arc and what she does. So,
Yeah, well, that escape is also made possible by the compassion of one individual working within the system as well, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't have happened. I forget the name of that giant who's helping her, but also there's the admiral or the oh gosh, why am I forgetting his name? But the one with the ice. He's obviously at that point not entirely doing what he's doing by the letter of the law, right? I mean, um, he's seeing, I think, Robin as a person and not as this dangerous criminal. And he's decided that um, he's going to basically look the other way, and allow her to escape. What? Oh my gosh, what's his name? Do you remember?
is it Kazaru or Kazan?
Kuzan. That's his real name.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
he's
Aokiji.
Aokiji. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Aokiji. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Slipped my mind. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's that is important that you have characters who, even some who are working within the system, the Navy. It's easy to dismiss everybody in the Navy as just bad,
Mm-hmm.
because they're oppressors and they're working for the world government, which is essentially a tool of the celestial dragons. So they're all just tools doing their unthinkingly conforming, doing their duty and doing harm in the world in the process. But I think what Oda also shows us is that there are individuals. This is complicated. It's not just black and white. That there are individuals who work within the system who actually believe that they're doing the right thing, who work to bring about real justice with some compassion in the mix. So it's again, I love that about Oda, that he just doesn't portray things simply. He shows us the complexity of it too.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance that he shows in every single theme, I feel like. Because one theme that was really prevalent with Nico Robin's storyline and just in the overall series is this idea of propaganda and information control. Because the bounties go out for Nico Robin, and we see the world government is sort of always twisting the truth just a little bit
A
because
lot sometimes.
yeah. And it's really interesting to see how they use the bounties as a way to disseminate knowledge because that first scene where all the bounties fall and they're looking at it, they're like, this is just a little girl, but like ends up she killed everyone on this island. Oh no, find her. And she's walking around like going shopping, like she's not a threat. And
Right.
it's really sad to sort of see all of the struggles that our characters go through. And I think that's why Nico Robin's my favorite
Mhm.
because it just spoke the most to me as someone who's a big reader, who loves, seeking knowledge. And
Mhm.
it was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine going through that experience that she did.
And also
So,
the importance of knowing the past in order to understand who and what we are now. I think it's scary to me when I hear people being ignorant of history,
mm-hmm,
and you are much more susceptible to making the same mistakes when you either ignore history altogether or you embrace a distorted form of history, which is propaganda.
mm-hmm,
And it's scary. And then I also identify with Robin's pursuit of knowledge, and which is why she's my favorite character as well. And to this day, my favorite, I think, panel is her "I Want to Live" panel
yes.
in his lobby. It's still my favorite. I think arc as well because of that moment. I mean, there's some tough competition there, but I think that's probably still my favorite. It's "I Want to Live," but yeah, and she's my favorite character too for similar reasons. That's something I definitely relate to, and I think a lot of readers as well. I think a lot of readers are, some people prefer to read just for entertainment, but I think there's always an element of knowledge gained when you're reading even a fictional story. You're learning another perspective, and that makes you hopefully a wiser person. Yeah.
So, what other sort of character moments really spoke to you when you read the series? Like the
Oh
I
my
Want
goodness.
to Live, like what else was there?
Well, of course, there's the you become a true member, I think, of the One Piece family, as it were, when you mourn along with them for a ship. The idea that that you would mourn for the Mary at her funeral is just. I never thought I would be in tears over the fate of a fictional ship, but there it is. So that also very powerful moment there, and also let's see, where are you now? Yeah, you're past that. No, wait, Fishman Island. I'm trying to think of the order of everything. So you've Marineford
Yes,
is you haven't done Marineford yet.
I have. Yes,
Oh,
that
yeah,
was the
you have.
one
Yeah.
before Fishman. Yes.
Okay, just before Fishman. Okay, good, good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So Marineford is cool, but what really got me in that saga was the post-war arc, actually,
Hmm.
where we get a lot of Luffy's backstory, which is amazing that we could be that far into the series and have the main character's backstory be filled in more at that moment. But it was his reaction, not just to the loss of Ace, but also to the his awakening to the fact that his crew is there and he still has his friends. I think that's the panel that got me
Hmm.
when he was finally brought to that point, and he had to have his mourning. Totally respect that he needed to have that period of just pure grief for Ace. But at a certain point, he needed to be awakened to the reality that he still has his nakama, that he still has his crew and his friends, and life goes on. Life goes on, and so I just thought that was so powerful. So that's another big favorite for me. And then there's a moment I can't talk about yet because you aren't there yet from the saga that I just finished, Dress Rosa. But there's a new character who's introduced there who really only appears in a backstory, but has such an outsized effect on me and I think on a lot of people. But that one I can't talk about because you're not there yet. But you'll get there.
Oh yeah. Um,
How about you? What are some of your big moments?
I think for me, it's that big sort of shock when Akainu is about to punch Luffy, and
Mm.
Ace just bam is right there and sacrifices himself to save Luffy. And I'll remember, like, my jaw just dropped because I was hoping, maybe I'm a little bit too like innocent, but I really wanted like Ace to join the crew and him to go on adventures with Luffy. So I was
Yeah.
really hoping for that, and I was like, yeah, he got the water sea or the seawater stone bands off, and he like has this awesome eruption of power, and he and Akainu fight, and like it's great. And then he's like, actually, I'm gonna go target Luffy because he's a lot weaker than you are because you're fighting me. You're going toe to toe with me. I'm gonna go target Luffy, and Ace has to what's it called in Wheel of Time? Sheath the sword.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was really sad, but I also really enjoyed in this most recent arc in Fishman Island when Luffy uses hockey to knock out 50,000 of the people in there,
Yeah.
like that, like because we sort of see him use hockey for the first time in early Fishman Island when he just knocks out a few people, and you're like, whoa, like that's so cool. But
I
little
think
do
this
you
first
know.
time you realize that it's hockey, maybe, but it
Yeah.
has possibly come up before.
It has. And I think it's Genbei who is teaching. No, it's Rayleigh who teaches him how to use
Really?
hockey. And Rayleigh is like, yeah, you saw this with Anil. You saw this with a few other people. And I was like, that's how Anil was able to do all that. Okay, that makes so much sense. And I wanted to talk a little about Anil because he's one of my favorite villains. And I was so shocked that he was not killed because. Well, I wasn't shocked that he was killed, but it was more I was curious what his real power level was because
Hmm.
it's only because of Luffy's rubber powers that he is able to resist his lightning powers. Because that's a
Uh-huh.
really powerful devil fruit to have. And he just sort of sails off into the distance at the end of the arc. He's like, okay, bell was rang. I was defeated. Bye. And he's like, I'm off to the Dream Island. And I'm like, what's that? Like, where are you going? Like, so
So
I
you see
really,
him more in a cover story
hmm,
in the manga. You do see more of him. It's not a lot, honestly. You see him up on the moon and encountering
hmm,
different people up there. I don't know if they cover that in the what you're watching
hmm.
or not. But we do see
Yeah.
a little bit of what his adventures are in a cover story.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's not anything that's like I feel like vital to the story, at least at this point. Maybe who knows
Mm-hmm.
what Oda's going to do with it. I don't know if he'll come back or not in the
Yeah.
main narrative, but yeah, we do see him up there encountering some other people and still being kind of a douchebag, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another great moment that I wanted to highlight was in Thriller Bark, which is actually one of my favorite arcs because of the sort of zombie skeleton. I love Oz. He is so cool.
Yeah,
I love seeing Oz Jr. and Marineford as well. But I really love the moment when Brooke and the crew sing to the recording device for Laboon.
yeah,
And
yeah.
or they listen to the final recording of Binks's Brew
Right.
for Laboon, and that was like I added it to my playlist like that day. I was like, I'm putting it
Aw.
in my playlist. I'm gonna listen to it. Like, I love that moment, and it's like such a sad moment too because everyone's dying. Not Luffy. Brooke dies, but because he has the resurrection fruit, he's able to come back, but he can't go in the sun, so he's just trapped for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So it's really sad. And I can't wait for them to reunite with Laboon. I don't know if it's happened yet, but I'm very much looking forward to that. I think it's going to be very emotional because he's been
Yeah.
around for a long, long time, since Jaya, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
He's been kicking around. But yeah, and that is another thing that is very effectively woven into One Piece is the music, really, especially of course if you're watching the anime, which I'm mostly not. But I had to watch a few moments, and I did have to watch the Binks's Brew, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho, and all that. You know, I mean, it's just such a the music, of course, enhances the emotional aspect of it. I think
oh yeah.
it's fair to say. But yeah, he's a great character introduced there as well, and astounding to me that late in a series you could have such important characters be introduced. But there it is in the crew. I mean, I probably at several moments thought, okay, we're done. The crew's all formed. Let's, and then there's this other person who joins the crew. And of course, Luffy's always looking for every stray weirdo out there to join the crew. Every time he sees an oddball, he's like, join my crew. Yeah.
I loved when Frankie joined the crew because he was
Oh
somebody I
yeah, that's
hated.
such a great. Yeah, and he's having to chase after them with his underwear or his speedo or
Yeah.
whatever in the streets, and then Robin has her where she takes things into her hands, you could say.
Yeah. And it was so funny because I talked about this in my Fishman review, but Frankie, like, he turns into a giant mech and fights a giant kaiju with the squid. I never thought we would get a mech versus kaiju fight in One Piece, and I got it. And like that's my favorite thing ever. Like I grew up on Power Rangers. I love Godzilla. I love
Uh-huh.
Gamera and all those movies. And I never thought in 100 years that we would have a big mech fight with a kaiju.
I mean, just
Like,
don't rule out anything when it
yeah,
comes to
like
One
this.
Piece. I mean, you never know what you're going to encounter. Yeah.
I say all the time in my reviews, but I'm like, there's something for everybody in the series. No matter how like picky you are, there's gonna be something you love, and like that's what I love. And I think it's because of the diversity of the characters, because there's so many characters, and I always forget people, and I feel so bad. Like I had a really bad moment when I was talking with a friend of mine. I was like, oh yeah, Jinbei was the right hand of Gold Roger. I just completely forgot. And I meant Rayleigh, but
Yeah,
That was a
yeah,
really funny moment. But there's just many moments where a character will come in and just really connect with you, and then they'll leave, and then you see them back, and you're like, "Yay!" and like cheer. But
sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's an eclectic series too, in that Oda seems to grab things from all over. The references are just, you never know what is going to be alluded to in the vast, cauldron of world literature and stories. You just kind of, I'm just at this point, I'm just like, okay, I'm expecting something to come from just about anywhere, and that's fun. It's fun. It's not always necessarily a deep like reference. Sometimes it's just a fun thing,
mm-hmm,
where he'll use a name or something like that. But sometimes it is a thing where he's trying to tell you something about the character because of how that character is named, and what have you. Or he's using, like an Impel Down. There's obviously allusions to, Dante's Inferno, right?
mm-hmm.
And there's an element of a thematic element to the usage of that. I think that he's trying to get across there. But there's a big difference, So in Dante's Inferno, the idea is, hey, this is justice. This is a good thing, right? This is the way you live a bad life. This is where you belong, kind of thing. Whereas in Impel Down, there's a lot of questioning here of, oh wait, this treatment of these prisoners. Some of them, yeah, maybe did horrible things, but others are just innocent. And is this really justified? So he uses it to, I think, again, ask some questions, about the way society is organized.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the deep literature that he draws from, because when I was watching Impel Down, like I read Dante's Inferno back in high school just for fun because I
Yeah.
was really fascinated, by it, and I really connected with that in Impel Down. It's one of my favorite arcs, actually.
Mm.
And plus, we get to see villains team up with Luffy, Buggy, and uh, somebody else. I'm slipping my mind right now, but it was really fun to see them going
Right.
down each level. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also the secret level with Ivankov, like they are so cool. Really
Yeah.
funny as well. So,
Yeah, it's wonderful. And then there's what's his name? The one with the devil fruit power where he can turn into anyone.
oh, number 3 or number 2?
He's not number three. No, I mean, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name. I feel terrible because
Yeah,
I
there's
loved
so
him.
many. Yeah, I'm just.
I loved him. No, he's the one who is Luffy's friend, and he's was he number two? I think.
I
Um,
think because number 3 is the Rax one, right?
he's the one with a swan, and he dances, and
Yeah.
oh gosh, what's his name? I feel terrible forgetting his name. But he's the hero of Impel Down, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. He makes that sacrifice at the end, and yeah, he's just a fantastic character in that saga, in that arc. I'll think of his name. Huh.
Yeah, I wish I
Yeah,
had my notes for it, but
I'll figure it out.
yeah.
I'll look him up.
But one fun thing that I really like with sort of the literature is, I guess, Usopp, and how he's sort of like a Pinocchio type of character with the long nose, and
Yeah, yeah,
he's always switching his I guess persona to Sogeking, who I enjoy on a conceptual level, but I think Usopp is actually one of my least favorite crewmates, and I feel bad saying that because I see a lot of value in him and I enjoy him as a character, but
yeah.
I feel like there could be a lot more done with this character, and I really loved him in Water 7. Like, and that was
Oh,
like I'm talking about, like I want more stuff like that where he's integral to what's going on, because he sort of
yeah.
feels like a comic relief to me.
I think he has his moments. By the way, it's Bon Clay.
Oh,
Was
Bon Clay, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Loved Bon Clay in Impel Down. Just beautiful. But yeah, and his sacrifice at the end of that was just, I thought, another real favorite moment for me. But yeah, in regard to Usopp, he has some really important moments. You'll be pleased to see what happens with him, I think, in Dress Rosa.
Ooh.
Uh, but he's an important member of the crew in my mind because he reminds us of what real courage is. because he fears, because he's outclassed in many ways. He's not one of the most formidable members of the crew by any means, next to Sanji or Zoro or Luffy, or even he's kind of a minor member of the crew. But it's not that he's talentless. He's
Mm-hmm.
got some incredible abilities. Actually, when you think about it, his ability to he's a sharpshooter. That comes up more than once as an
Mm-hmm.
important thing. And he also has this ability to tell these stories, which amazingly often are like almost like prophetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there's a certain perceptiveness there to him that is important. And let's never forget why he tells stories in the first place. His storytelling is such a huge part of who he is. And yes, if you just look at it superficially, it's a lie, right? Like there's the Pinocchio thing, and
Mm-hmm.
there's Aesop's fables sort of mixed in with all that. But
I didn't even realize that.
yeah,
Aesop's.
Aesop, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, he's telling these stories because not because okay. So the way storytelling is in general, it's basically you're telling lies in order to convey big truths. You're telling little lies to convey big truths, and that's what Usopp is doing. And when he talks about even as a kid when he was caring for his mother, those stories served an important function, which was to help him deal with his pain and his struggle and help her in her final days. And that's important. That's a really important insight about the purpose. That's One Piece as a whole is what it does. It helps us with our struggles. It helps us understand the world. It helps us to make sense of things. And I think that Usopp gets that in a way. So to accuse him of lying is a very superficial reading of what he's doing when he's telling his stories.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to look at them on a deeper level, he's telling big, important truths in these stories, and he's using them to help his friends and his loved ones. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's what storytelling does.
Mm-hmm. Agree with all of that. I also really enjoyed the relationship he has with Chopper because
Oh,
they
yeah.
are like peas in a pod. Like they are perfect best friends for each other. And not Usopp, but Chopper also has sort of a support role in that he's the doctor of the crew. And I
Yeah.
love Chopper. Like I was so excited to see him. I knew he was a character because for years I saw the antlers and the very
Uh-huh.
iconic hat, and I was like, "Oh, who's that?" Like I would love to know more about that, fun little guy.
Yeah.
And it was like I think 150 episodes, 200 I guess chapters, not episodes in that he's introduced, and immediately Usopp is like, "Oh, you are awesome!" Like, and they're just immediately friends. Luffy wants to eat him, but Usopp prevents him from doing that, and Sanji wants to cook him. It's a little bit of a hurdle in the beginning, but I really love the friendship.
Yeah, there's a beautiful moment in his introductory arc where with Dr. Hiruluk
Hmm.
and the whole cherry blossom thing going on in there, and the idea of leaving one's will in the world again. Beautiful stuff in that arc. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the idea that Chopper initially is perceived by most people as a monster, as an other, big theme in One Piece,
Hmm.
and the idea of connecting with the other and realizing they're not so other, that you can see yourself in this. And Chopper, ironically, is incredibly humane, right?
Hmm.
Is a very loving and humane character. So the idea that this is a monster again shows you how superficial we can be, how labels deceive us, how when we apply labels to something and dismiss it or even fear it because of those labels, we're missing something big and important there. You know.
Oh yeah, it's just it's really fascinating, sort of all the layers that every single character has. I feel like no other series has such depth to the characters,
Yeah.
and I love it. But I'd also want to talk a little bit about the sort of our favorite sort of villains, I guess, villain
Okay.
groups, like who, like Who is the most interesting to us between like the admirals or like the world government and like?
I can tell you which ones I hate.
Oh yeah, tell me who you love to hate.
For one thing, among the Navy, I cannot stand Akainu. I
Oh
just
yeah, same.
cannot stand him. And his very rigid approach to justice and his insistence that no matter what the authority does, they're always right. Right?
Hmm.
It's just there's not even a drop of mercy or compassion in the way that he tries to enforce justice. And he this sort of self-righteous, I'm right, and whatever I do, whatever harm I inflict on the world is justified because I'm on the side of justice, right?
Hmm.
I hate that with all my heart. I cannot stand that in the world, and he represents that very effectively, right? I mean, he's what he does to Ace, it's just heart. It's heartless,
Hmm.
and I think he's a not inaccurate representation of the way some people view the world,
Yeah, very
and that
black
is
and white.
something that I oppose with my whole being. I just cannot stand that approach to justice. And then among the villains, you haven't seen the worst of him yet, but Doflamingo is
Ooh.
yeah. I mean, you've met him, and you've heard him during Marineford say that basically might makes right, right? Like the winners get to write the history, kind of thing. So
And he
and
even says he's only in the Marines because he's bored, and he's like, I just want to.
yeah.
I may become a pirate now. I don't know. Be happy I'm not a pirate because I could kill you right now. This is what he says to one of the
Well,
Marines.
he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
He's a sociopath, and he enjoys other people's pain. He
Hmm.
likes the sense of control it gives him to inflict suffering and pain on other people, and I don't like that. I think that's a sickness that we could do without.
Hmm.
So that kind of thing. And again, kudos to Oda for writing these characters that evoke such a strong reaction in me. So those are the villains, or I guess characters or whatever, that represent things that I find myself. Uh, I don't know if love to hate is the way to put it, but I certainly don't like seeing those things in the world. I
Hmm.
think that those things in the world are incredibly harmful, and those types of people, the self-righteous ones and the sociopathic ones, are responsible for most of the pain and the suffering in the world.
Hmm.
So how do you combat that? And we see various, I think, explorations of how you fight against that kind of thing, and sometimes it's just through strength and force and violence, counter violence, and sometimes there's a more non-violence, like you saw in Fishman Island. There's the queen, what's her name, Otohiro,
Otohime?
or yeah, Otohima, is that what it is? I
I
can't
think so,
remember.
yeah.
But her advocacy for nonviolent,
Hmm.
means of arriving at a harmonious state. It's interesting. I'm not going to say that everything she does is correct and right and would definitely work. Yay. But I love that Oda is willing to explore that approach, and maybe in conjunction with force and power and muscle, um, because let's face it, people like Doflamingo aren't going to say, "Oh yes, you're right. We should all be peaceful and nice. Kumbaya. Let's all be,
Hmm.
get along." So how do you have to have some kind of power and strength to counter people like that. But at the same time, I don't think that violence as a response to violence is going to solve everything. You need people in the world who are advocates of peace, and you need people who give us this vision. Maybe it's idealistic, but that is what we have to aspire toward, I think. So maybe you need a combination of those things.
Yeah, that's really a good point. And I think it was hard for me to ask the question because I haven't actually met that many like groups of villains. Because I think the Marines and the Admirals are the biggest ones, and I've been sort of spoken to about the what's it called, the Emperors or the yeah the Yonko, the Emperors. Like I'm really hating Big Mom right now, and I've only seen a
No.
tease of her, and she's
Yeah.
like demanding like a tribute from Fishman Island with 10,000 tons of candy, which has some really interesting effects.
Yeah. No,
And
she's horrible. Most of them are horrible.
yeah, I'm
But
really
Shanks is one of them.
that's what I was gonna ask. I'm like, how does Shanks fit into this? Like, I'm really excited to get some of those answers, but I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to getting more Big Mom because we had such a big introduction to her in Fishman Island at the final like episode or two,
Yeah.
and she just seems awful. So I think she's gonna probably be one of my favorites because she's on Cake Island, I believe, and there's an entire arc called like something Cake Island. I'm like,
Whole
ooh,
Cake Island.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
where I am now.
ooh,
Well, no, I have Zoo and then Whole Cake
okay,
Island, which is part of the same saga, I think.
hmm,
So,
yeah. So another thing that I would like to sort of touch on is, and I want to give a shout out to my friend Tommy because he's caught up to the series now, and I asked him like what are some questions I should ask, and he said to ask what do you think the One Piece is because we don't
yeah.
even really know anything about the One Piece.
I don't think anyone knows. I
Yeah.
mean, even people who are caught up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pure conjecture, really, for everybody at this point. I haven't a clue. I actually don't have any idea. Yeah, no idea. And I don't think anyone does except Oda.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe his team. I don't know.
Yeah, because my theory for a while now has been that it's like either a big ship, kind of like the Great Weapons or the Ancient Weapons, but instead of it being ancient, it's futuristic. I don't know, but
I honestly don't know how he's going
yeah,
to live up to all the conjecture and
yeah,
the hype. And
it's
I
been
mean,
building for 30 years about.
how is he going to avoid everybody being like, "Oh, that's the One Piece"? I mean, I have no idea what he's going to do with this. But yeah, the friends you made along the way—that's the
Mm-hmm.
One Piece.
Oh yeah.
There would be riots in the
Oh
streets.
yeah. It needs to be
Reporters,
something.
reporters out there covering all these manga fans going ballistic.
The One Piece is piracy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
No, I have no idea how he's going to do anything that could possibly live up to all the conjecture and the hype.
yeah. And another thing that I'm sort of wondering about is sort of the role of Blackbeard after Marineford, because he absorbs the devil fruit power of Whitebeard and
Yeah,
kills Whitebeard, and
yeah.
he just has two powers now. Because
Which
early
you're
in
not supposed to be able to do.
no, like I remember I asked what another friend of mine, like early in the arcs, I was like, oh, I bet Luffy gets another devil fruit. That would be cool. And he's like, yeah, that's not possible. And then this happened. I was like, wait, it is kind of possible, but I don't know how
You're
he did it.
supposed to die if
Mm-hmm.
if you absorb try to eat more than one devil fruit. You're supposed to die.
Yeah.
So
And it's really fun that Oda made having a devil fruit sort of a weakness for pirates because you
yeah,
just
that they
immediately
drown.
sink
Yeah, yeah.
and drown. Like that is there's always sort of that hint of danger.
I mean, if I were a pirate, I would think twice
Mm-hmm.
about because I'm on the water a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're very vulnerable as a devil fruit user out on the water. But maybe if I were landlocked, I would do it. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, I'd end up with some dorky power. Probably. But still, you know.
Yeah, if you could have any power, what would it be that you've
Oh, I have
seen?
no idea. I have no idea. I've always, when I was a kid and a comic book fan, I always wanted to teleport because one of my
Hmm.
favorite characters was Nightcrawler in the X-Men. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to teleport as well. That's just a superpower I would love to have, so I can just go anywhere I want. But
Heck yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting just the diversity of the devil fruits as well. Because
Uh-huh.
Oda always shocks me with something new. Like,
I mean, some of them are really silly, and some of them are really cool, and just quite an array. Yeah.
yeah, and especially, and he shows that through the Baroque works villain group. You have the Candleman, you have Booger Bomb guy, like you have a changing face guy, like, and then you have Crocodile. I believe he's the leader, and he's my favorite. And it was such a shock to see him come back and like
Oh yeah,
help.
and Impel Down. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that was so much fun. But yeah,
Yeah,
Baroque
and to
works
see
is so
Oda's
interesting.
good at another thing, which is you see a villain, you hate a villain or dismiss them, and then you think that's it, and then later they appear again, and you see a different facet of them. Like I started to like Crocodile more because of what he does. I mean, he's still kind of an egocentric villain, but he does help,
Mm-hmm.
in Impel Down. So he doesn't seem entirely bad, anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he does this with backstories all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you understand a character, you don't necessarily condone what they've done, but
Mm-hmm.
you feel differently. Maybe you're a little less angry at that character, perhaps, but you feel a more connection despite what they've done, even maybe, which is amazing to me that Oda can pull that off. But he does it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I really enjoy that Oda does is sort of just the differences in settings. Like there's always
Uh huh.
like it's not every island looks the same. There's always something really cool that like is very imaginative, and then he uses it to like he has it affect the story. Like looking at Water 7, they have all the canals and they have the flood that comes in every however amount of time. I can't remember exactly. But it's not just like a fun thing he just throws in there to put our characters through the ringer. It's actually important and is tied with the lore of the series and with the cities. And we also see this a lot with Alabasta and with the sort of desertification theme and sort of climate change theme that he is
Mm-hmm.
tackling with this arc. And I really enjoyed that arc in the second half. I thought it kind of slogged in the first half, but I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the resolutions of it.
Yeah, and
But
you realize too how connected everything is when you read Water 7,
mm-hmm,
right? And you have that big old huge destructive wave and you realize, oh, that's connected to the tides that were affecting, the in long ring long ring
Long Island, I
long
think.
island, that's the name, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is intricately connected, which is, of course, our climate is. An imbalance in one place is going to affect something way over on the other side of the planet. So that is really cool. I do love that he includes some environmental themes in here as well.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you would advise for me going forward in this? I know you're just a few arcs ahead, but
Yeah, I'm just. I
but
mean, we're
we're
almost
about
in the
caught up
same.
now. But
We're in the same boat, Christian.
yeah.
So I'm not really. I don't consider my. I consider myself still very much a newbie, and I'm experiencing this story for the first time. And there's a lot of kind, really wonderful people out there who are huge fans of the series, who know it in and out, and they're caught up, and they love going back over it, and kind of re-experiencing the series with people who are new to it. They're just incredibly helpful guides as well. So listen to those people. They're wonderful. There's a community really of people out there. So I always love, one of the things I love about whenever I make a One Piece video is getting the comments from people who are ahead of me or who are revisiting the story. And that is wonderful too. That this is a story you can reread or rewatch any number of times and still get new things every time. That is so cool to me. That's the sign of a great story, really, is that you can reread it again and again and again and find new things and appreciate new things. And that's definitely One Piece. I could see myself rereading the whole thing and seeing all kinds of things I didn't see the first time. But yeah, just roll with it, enjoy it, and have fun interacting with the other fans out there. That's kind of what I'm doing, and reach out to people and have discussions, and yeah, like you're doing.
Awesome. Question I had is that on your channel you say English professor reviews One Piece. How has
Yeah.
your experience being an English professor affected reading One Piece? Because when I watch your videos, I see a lot of literature like being referenced, but what else is there that has sort of deepened your love for One Piece that has come from that perspective? Or...
Well, in terms of just how I approach the series, I think a lot of people who watch my videos would have made comments to the effect that this is a little different in terms of how I talk about the series. So I'm less likely to talk about, power scaling and battles and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. I think it's cool, it's fun, but to me, these are all vehicles for the big themes that Oda is exploring. So I'm more thematic in what I talk about in my videos, and I try to like my latest video on Dressrosa. I pretty much focused the whole thing around the theme of compassion, and that seemed to work really well. That approach. So that's probably the biggest thing about my approach, and how being an English professor informs my approach to this story is it's a very thematically driven analysis. That's not to say that's the only thing you can do. When there are lots of ways to engage with One Piece. And just to enjoy those battles and the explosions and the different devil fruits, and that's fun. That's great. I love that people enjoy doing that sort of thing. But what I'm here for mainly, because of my background and what I enjoy the most, is to look at the themes. And I love identifying with the characters and going on that emotional journey as well, because I think it's great storytelling is a feature of it is that ability to have both the thematic exploration and the emotional connection. And I'm fascinated by stories that do that really well, and that is definitely One Piece. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely more of a emotions based person because
Uh-huh.
I'm quite the sensitive guy, and I really love being affected emotionally. That's why I love Malazan. I mean,
Yeah,
it really
it's
affected
important.
me.
It's
Yeah.
therapeutic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, as you said earlier, it's a safe space to look at these themes because
Yeah.
I mean, I love history. I accidentally got a history minor actually in college because I just
Oh,
took so
cool.
many, and the department head was like, "Hey, by the way, like you're about to graduate. Do you want this minor?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I took it. But like, I love reading history, but sometimes it does become too much. And so it's really nice to have One Piece sort of be like, okay, I can still learn and sort of engage with this topic, but not as I guess, overwhelmingly or depressingly looking at it and knowing this is real. And that's why I really love sort of the different themes and arcs that Oda has and the diversity of the arcs. Some of them are very wacky and silly, some of them are very serious and look at serious topics.
Hmm.
And it's why I love One Piece. I mean, I love when I'm affected, when I listen to Binks's Brew and I really focus in on thinking about the scene, I can get myself to cry. I mean, it's really easy. And I really love, just the emotions around the series. So
Yeah.
that's what I look for when I'm reading or watching anything. Does it affect me, not personally, but deeply? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There are very few series that give you as many emotional moments like this. And I'm very much a newbie when it comes to manga, so I can't even begin to come up with comparisons there. But within the thing that I know fairly well is, which is fantasy novels. There's Realm of the Elderlings, which does that for me, and the Malazan Book of the Fallen, which does that for me. So yeah, it's very few though that really can reach those emotional peaks this way. Yeah.
oh yeah. So this has been a great talk. We're about out at an hour. So thank
Okay.
you so much for joining. Is there anything you want to say to the viewers before we leave?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, just thank you, Christian, for inviting me here. I really enjoyed chatting with you as usual, and I wish you the very best on your One Piece journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching. I'll have Philip's links down in the description. Please go check them out. Check out his videos. If you're caught up, you'll be able to watch more of his videos than I can. So that'll be really fun. Uh, Thank you so much for joining with me again, Philip. It's been so much fun, and I hope we can do this again soon. So thank you again.